Have you ever just disappeared from people? No dramatic goodbye, no final argument, no closure speech, just silence. Messages left unread, calls ignored. Slowly, quietly, you faded out of someone's life like a character who exits a scene without warning. And maybe from the outside, it looks cold, harsh even. People might say, how can someone just cut everyone off like that? It feels extreme, almost ruthless. But here's the twist. What if it's not about cruelty at all? What if, in some cases, cutting everyone off isn't an act of rejection, but an act of survival? Let me show you something. Imagine your mind as a room, not a big empty hall, but a small, lived-in space. Every person in your life is inside that room, talking, moving, demanding your attention. Some bring warmth, laughter, comfort. Others bring noise, pressure, tension. And over time, if too many people are inside that room, it starts to feel crowded, suffocating. Now picture someone who doesn't just open the door and ask people to leave politely, but instead they flip the switch, turn off the lights, and walk out. That's what cutting everyone off can feel like. It's not always a decision made out of anger. Often, it's made in a moment of overwhelm, when the brain says, I can't process all of this anymore. You see, your brain isn't just designed to connect. It's also designed to protect. And when emotional stress builds up over time, unresolved conflicts, constant expectations, subtle disappointments, it starts looking for the fastest way to reduce that stress. Sometimes that fastest way is distance, complete distance. And here's where it gets interesting. People who cut everyone off aren't bad at caring. They're overwhelmed by caring too much. They notice everything, the tone in your voice, the shift in your behavior, the message you didn't send, the energy that feels off. Their emotional radar is constantly scanning, picking up signals most people ignore. Sounds like a strength, right? It is, until it isn't. Because when you're that sensitive to emotional input, relationships don't feel light and easy. They feel intense, heavy, like carrying invisible weight all the time. And if no one ever taught you how to set boundaries, the only boundary left is distance, total distance. Think about someone who's been the strong one their whole life, the one who listens, who understands, who shows up, who absorbs everyone else's problems like a sponge. Now imagine what happens when that sponge is completely soaked. It doesn't slowly dry out, it drips, it leaks, it breaks. And in that breaking moment, cutting people off doesn't feel like a choice. It feels like the only way to breathe again. But there's another layer to this. Sometimes it's not just about overwhelm, it's about control. Not in a manipulative way, but in a deeply human way. When relationships become unpredictable, when people hurt you, disappoint you, or make you question your worth, your brain starts craving certainty. And one of the easiest ways to create certainty is by removing the source of unpredictability altogether. If no one is close to you, no one can hurt you. Simple, clean, effective, but also lonely. And that's the paradox. People who cut everyone off often end up in a strange emotional space. On one hand, there's relief, peace, quiet, no drama, no expectations, no emotional noise. On the other hand, there's an emptiness that slowly creeps in. Because as much as your brain wants safety, it also craves connection. That's how we're wired. You can silence the chaos, but you can't completely turn off the need to belong. So you end up caught between two worlds, too overwhelmed to stay connected, too human to feel okay being alone. And here's something most people don't talk about. Cutting everyone off can sometimes be a form of self-protection rooted in past experiences. If someone grew up in an environment where trust was broken repeatedly, or where emotional needs were ignored, their brain learns a powerful lesson early on. Closeness equals pain. So later in life, when relationships start getting deep, something inside them pulls back. Not because they don't care, but because they care too much. And they've learned that caring can hurt. It's like touching a hot stove. You don't need to relearn that lesson twice. Once your brain associates closeness with pain, it creates distance automatically, almost like a reflex. And sometimes that reflex shows up as cutting people off completely. But let's pause here for a second, because not all distancing is unhealthy. In fact, sometimes cutting people off is exactly what someone needs to do. If a relationship is toxic, draining, or consistently damaging your sense of self, walking away isn't weakness, it's clarity. The problem is, the brain doesn't always distinguish between this person is harmful and this situation feels uncomfortable. So instead of selectively creating healthy distance, it goes all in. Everyone out, no exceptions. It's like using a fire extinguisher to blow out a candle. Effective, but maybe a bit too much. And this is where things get complicated. Because from the outside, people might label someone who cuts everyone off as cold, distant, or even arrogant. But internally, that person might be going through something entirely different. They might be exhausted, overstimulated, emotionally drained. They might be trying to figure themselves out in a world that feels too loud. Or they simply might not have the tools yet to navigate relationships in a balanced way. Because let's be honest, no one really teaches you how to set boundaries properly. No one sits you down and says, here's how you can care about people without losing yourself. So you learn through experience, through trial and error, through moments where you give too much, trust too easily, stay too long, until one day something inside you snaps and says, enough. And sometimes enough looks like silence. It looks like distance. It looks like disappearing. But here's the part that really matters. Cutting everyone off might protect your peace temporarily, but it doesn't solve the deeper question. How do you stay connected without losing yourself? Because real growth isn't about choosing between isolation and overwhelm. It's about learning the space in between. The space where you can say no without guilt, where you can step back without disappearing, where you can let people in, but not let them consume you. And that's not easy. It takes awareness, practice, sometimes even discomfort, but it's possible. It starts with small shifts. Noticing when you feel drained instead of waiting until you feel exhausted. Speaking up when something bothers you instead of storing it until it explodes. Choosing who gets access to your energy instead of giving it away automatically. Because the goal isn't to shut people out. It's to build relationships that don't make you feel like you have to escape. And if you've ever cut people off or felt the urge to just disappear from everyone, I want you to understand something clearly. There's nothing wrong with you. Your brain is doing exactly what it's designed to do, protect you. It just might be using a strategy that's a little too extreme for the long run. And the fact that you're even thinking about this, reflecting on it, means you're already one step ahead. So maybe the next time you feel that urge to vanish, don't judge it. Get curious about it. Ask yourself, what am I actually trying to protect right now? Because behind that urge to cut everyone off, there's usually something worth understanding, something worth healing, and maybe, just maybe, something worth keeping. If this made you think about your own patterns or someone in your life who suddenly disappeared, take a moment and reflect on it. And if you want to explore more about how your mind works, how your relationships shape you, and how to find that balance between connection and peace, stick around. There's a lot more to uncover.